Dreamers Awake, Chapter 18. There is a whisper. It's repeating something over and over, but it's not the song, that horrible song. Lydia keeps her eyes closed, but is very aware that she is on the cusp of sleep and wakefulness. She listens carefully to the whisper. We can't both live. We can't both live, the whisper says. That's what it's been repeating. We can't both live. Lydia hears it clearly this time. You'll have to kill me. You'll have to take my life. It's Matilda speaking. Lydia wants to open her eyes, but feels she should not. She somehow knows this is when she'll figure out exactly what's going on, but she can't open her eyes. She must stay in this semi-awake state. There is a feeling of relief, and she hears Matilda again. Good. You've figured it out. You've finally got the balance right, she says. Her voice is clearer than it's ever been. You've almost got it completely figured out. Lydia relaxes more, and a picture comes into view. She is sitting in a room. The room is bright and white, but somehow not blinding. She feels that she's sitting, but there's no chair. She can't see her physical form. When she looks down at her hands, she only sees the brightness. How will she be able to speak if she has no physical form? Oh, you'll figure it out, Matilda says. Lydia looks towards where the soft voice is coming from. Matilda is standing there. What's happening? Lydia manages to ask out loud. Matilda smiles. You finally managed to find the balance, Matilda says. Where am I? Lydia asks. Matilda pauses and looks thoughtful. I was going to ask you that, Matilda says. How would I even know? I live in the real world. You're the one that brought me here, Lydia says. Even though the words should be angry, she can't hold on to that feeling. It seems to melt away. I didn't bring you here, Lydia, Matilda says. This is where you live. Lydia pauses. She knows the words are English, but they make very little sense. I live in L.A., or Seattle, with your mom. I wasn't trying to replace you, Lydia says. She wants to placate this ghost so she can just move on with her life. Oh, but you were. You really were, Matilda says. No, I would never do that. I just needed a place to live. My parents are dead. I just needed a guardian. I like Aunt Maggie. Lydia feels very young and childish. Even to her own ears, her voice sounds whiny, arguing with this ghost in a dream. I see. So you're here and you don't know why. You don't understand, Matilda says. Stop being so confusing. Just say it. Just say it, Lydia screams. Matilda nods. You're confused. Your life is not what you thought it was. You made it up. You tricked yourself, Matilda says. Lydia thinks hard about that. How had she tricked herself? It doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense, she began. When my parents died, I had to come live with Aunt Maggie. She had extra space because you died too. No, I didn't, Matilda says, her face sad. And your parents didn't die either, or at least not in the way you think. Aunt Maggie told me the whole story. We're like half-sisters, but cousins, except not in a yucky way. Yucky? Why did I use that word? That's true. I think you're starting to figure some things out, Matilda says encouragingly. Lydia suddenly feels much younger than Matilda. She knows she was younger, but not this young. I really just want to be with my mommy and daddy, Lydia says. Good. That's good. Go with those feelings. Matilda looks like she wants to step forward, but she doesn't move. Lydia shakes her head hard, trying to remember her big girl words and how big girls act. No. I want to be alive. Stop trying to kill me, Lydia says. Matilda sighs. I didn't want to do it this way. It's better if you realize on your own, but you seem stubborn, Matilda says. Lydia makes a huffing noise and crosses her arms against her chest. Lydia, you were once alive. You are my half-sister, my cousin, but you died when you were in kindergarten, Matilda begins. No, I did not, Lydia whispers. You did. Complications from the flu. It was bad that year. You hadn't gotten the shot yet. Your mom was waiting for your yearly checkup and you caught it before you could get the vaccine. Lydia listens and feels a stirring in her mind. I hate the shots. I don't want it. Lydia feels tears on her cheeks. Yes, that's why your mommy wanted to wait. Get it all done in one appointment, Matilda says soothingly. But it was too late. You died. Your daddy got really sad after you died, and he drove off a bridge. But Mommy was sick. Daddy drove off the bridge because Mommy... Lydia trails off. Is that the way it happened? She can't remember. It's all tangled up. Right. Your mommy was sick, but you never knew that. You and your daddy were already gone by the time she got sick. She got so sick she had to live with her sister. She lived in the room downstairs. Matilda stops. Lydia is crying a lot now, loudly, like a little kid who's lost in a store. I want my mommy and daddy, Lydia says. You can be with them again, but you have to let me go, Matilda says. Lydia stops crying and sniffles. What? She asks. She felt all off-kilter, half in the mind of a teenager and half in the mind of a small child. She flicks back and forth. I had an accident. I was hit by a car, but I didn't die. I'm in a coma in the hospital. You found me. They guided you to me and told you that you could live by taking my life, Matilda says. Who told me that? Lydia asks. Matilda points to the space behind Lydia. Lydia turns. Gathered behind her are dozens of human figures, pitch black with glowing white eyes. They all look as though they wear cloaks, and none of them move as they stare forward at the exchange between the girls. Lydia feels a dread, but also a touch of familiarity. You didn't go away when you died. You didn't seem to know where to go, so they took you in. When I had my accident, a kind of door opened. You have to choose. You can pass on and be with your family, or you can push me out and take my life. You've seen it a little. You've invaded my memories and have seen what life could be like with my mom, living as me, Matilda says simply. You'll haunt me and fight me, Lydia says. For a while, but I can't stop you. You're stronger than me, Lydia. You've had this weird astral form longer than me. You know how to make it work. I don't. So the choice is yours. You can push me out or give me back what's mine, Matilda says. Why would Matilda be so open with her? Why would she tell her that she could so very easily take her life? Did Lydia even really want that life? It wouldn't be hers. She would really be alive, that much was true. She would get to be a teenager and grow up, have a job, get married if she wanted, really have a life, but it wouldn't really be hers. She would have to pretend her whole life that she was Matilda and not Lydia. Only she would ever know, and even if she told someone what had really happened, how she had gotten to live again, no one would ever believe her. Would it be worth it? And what about Aunt Maggie? She saw how devastated she would be if Matilda died. But she wouldn't really be dying, right? She would be Matilda, kind of. Sure, she'd know that she was actually Lydia, but if her aunt never knew that, would she even be hurt by it? Making the switch from calling her Aunt Maggie to Mom would be the hardest thing, but she would get used to it eventually. But what about Matilda? Even if Lydia thought with her younger self's mind, she saw how unfair it was to Matilda. Lydia had been taken from the world by a virus. It was unfair, but somehow just. Her family had mourned her. They knew what had happened to her. Her death was acknowledged and real. But if Lydia pushed Matilda out of her body and took her life from her, no one would know. None of her friends would mourn her. Even her own mother would probably not notice much of a difference. Any personality changes would be blamed on the accident or growing up. The real Matilda would simply melt away, and there was a sense of not only unfairness but injustice to it. On the other hand, Matilda could meet her father. Lydia wondered if that was something she had ever longed for. She tried to remember the journal she'd read, but couldn't recall her mentioning her father. But she had only read a handful of entries, and those were the most recent ones. Perhaps she'd been worried about her mom finding the journal and reading about her desire to meet her father. Maybe that's why it wasn't in there. Surely Matilda would jump at the chance to meet him, to know him. Lydia thought if she had never known who her father was, she would want to at least meet him. But would she give up her whole life to meet someone who was already dead? If it was her, Lydia thought that yes, she might. Another thought occurred to her. Lydia would be completely alone, more alone than anyone. There would be no one to truly understand her because no one would believe her story if she ever told it. And so she'd have a life again, but it would be a solitary one full of secrets never to be believed. But if she passed on, maybe she could find her parents. Even though she'd been dead for years, she'd lingered in this weird limbo, simply unwilling to go forward, so she had no idea what waited for her on the other side. Maybe there was nothing, and she would cease to be. Then none of this would matter. Maybe she could even go back and live with those cloaked figures again. Maybe there was heaven or hell. Or maybe there was a place where her and Mommy and Daddy could all be together again. She was just not sure what the right choice was. Lydia, Matilda says. Lydia has been silently thinking for a long time. Have you made a choice? Lydia looks up. You could meet your father, Lydia says in a matter-of-fact way, and Matilda falters just a bit. I know about him, the whole story. My mother told me what happened. Matilda holds the gaze of Lydia, but there is pain in her eyes. You could meet him, though. For real. Spend time with him, Lydia persists. Lydia, Matilda sighs. Have you made your choice? I think I have, she said. Have you? Matilda holds her gaze and says nothing, her eyes brimming with tears.